I'm down at Liberty Square in downtown Manhattan, where the Occupy Wall Street protesters are here for what looks like weeks on end. Some of them look like they're in a permanent camp-out situation. In just a few minutes, the actual protest will begin.
Anyone with eyes open knows that the gangsterism of Wall Street, financial institutions generally, has caused severe damage to the people of the United States and the world. And should also know that it has been doing so increasingly for over 30 years, as their power in the economy has radically increased, and with it their political power. That has set in motion a vicious cycle that has concentrated immense wealth, and with it political power in a tiny sector of the population, a fraction of 1%, while the rest increasingly become what is sometimes called the precariat, seeking to survive in a precarious existence. They also carry out these ugly activities with almost complete impunity, not only too big to fail, but also too big to jail. The courageous and honorable protests underway in Wall Street should serve to bring this calamity to public attention and to lead to dedicated efforts to overcome it and set the society on a more healthy course.
Getting kicked out of our homes.
We are forced to choose between groceries and...
We are denied quality medical care.
We are suffering from environmental pollution.
We are working long hours for little pay and no rights, if we are working at all. We are getting nothing while the other 1% is getting everything.
Well, I am hopeful. This needs to come. I have written so much about what's going on in the Middle East, the Arab Spring that hasn't bloomed, but it certainly is fervent and sustained and committed. Very impressive. It's going on across Europe. It's going on in Greece, in Spain, in Italy, in the UK, in Portugal, in Ireland, and other countries. It went on in Wisconsin, in America, last winter. Went on week after week after week. A row of people took over the Capitol building in Madison, Wisconsin. They've been put down, but they're still committed, and they haven't given up. And even though they've lost so much, they're still planning coming back. And now this is the core issue. This is the most important issue of all. I wonder if the people in New York, in Chicago where I live, in San Francisco, in Los Angeles, in Dallas, in New Orleans, all over the country, dozens of cities across the country My home city of Boston, over 1,000 turned out. I think I heard 1,800. And it's just the beginning. They know enough about what's wrong to be out on the streets.
He said, "It's the nature of protests that take place outside of approved channels, an inevitable byproduct of disruptive dissent. Those who are most vested in safeguarding and legitimizing establishment prerogatives, which by definition includes establishment media outlets, are going to be hostile to those challenges." As the virtually universal disdain in these same circles for WikiLeaks, and before that the Iraq war protest demonstrated, the more effectively adversarial it is, the more establishment hostility it's going to provoke.
Society says the only way to succeed is to go to college. Well, I graduated from college, but I can't find a job. I live at home, I have a lot of student loan debt. I'm feeding myself with plummet every day. I'm praying for things to improve so my life can begin. What saddens me the most is that everyone is in the same boat as me. I kind of feel forgotten, along with the other 99%.
I'm a grad student, and I'm on my way to getting another degree so I can get a better job so I can pay off my $100,000 in student loans. I also have 3 kids, a wife, and at the moment a steady job. In the future, we are thinking about moving to Canada so our children can have health care. I refuse to pay back my student loans. I refuse to support political parties or organizations that maintain capitalism's domination of my fellow human beings. I refuse to be silent. I refuse to make concessions. I refuse to be bullied. I've had it.
Working in my chosen profession, for which I accrued $120,000 of debt. I am one of the luckiest ones. 75% of my graduation class of 38 cannot find work. I am proud knowing that not a single one of us will stop trying to help others.
I'm 21 years old. Currently I'm $15,000 in student debt, and it's growing each day. When the economy tanked, Chase Bank sold off all their federal student loans to a collection agency. Said agency made me pay back all my student loans while still in school at $450 a month. I'm currently reaching the end on a 6-month deferment and will enter student payment soon. I've stopped going to college. I'm too scared to rack up more debt and have no faith in the economy to find a job if I graduate. Currently I'm living with family and working at diner, part-time and minimum wage.
Coverage of this phenomena, if it was, people sleeping out for an iPhone, would be huge. That's okay. You're not a freak if you do that. You got more respect if you're dressed up as Yoda, waiting for the last installment of Star Wars. Their cause, though, in specific terms, was virtually impossible to decipher. The group was clamoring for nothing in particular to happen right away. Not the implementation of the Buffett rule or the increased regulation of the financial industry. Some didn't think the government action was the answer because the rich, they believed, would just find new ways to subvert the system. That's a pretty hard idea to argue against at this point. The group's lack of cohesion and its apparent wish to pantomime progressivism rather than practice it knowledgeably is unsettling in the face of challenges of so many its generations face. Finding work, repaying student loans, figuring out ways to finish college when money has run out. This is, and I bet you this Gina Belafonte is probably a self-identified liberal. She would never, ever have the guts to write about the Tea Party and how backward ass they are. In 2009, I went down, was it 2009 or 2010? This time last year, I was at that Beck rally. And people were, I've got 8 hours of footage of people saying things like, I believe we got to live the real Constitution. I've never read it, but I'm going to take a course on it in October. And we got to have more God in government. Things like, there should be a law against passing any bills that are over 100 pages. That should be the law. Maybe it was 10 pages, they said. Or, we need to cut programs except for Medicare and Social Security, because I get those. Or, I visited the Holocaust Museum, and I saw what happens when a majority picks on a minority religious group, and that's why we have got to get this secret Sharia law that is infiltrating our country, and we've got to deal with these Muslims. I don't think I had a rational conversation with any of these people on their own terms. And yet, this is the phenomena that is driving this country. This is what gets CNN to report that a bunch of Tea Partiers are meeting at a Denny's to come up with their own super committee. That's not a joke, what I just said. CNN's literally covering a meeting of some Tea Partiers in a Denny's in Florida. And the only reporting as of Friday morning from the New York Times is that there's some people there who seem to be rather extreme. Well, yeah. And they don't seem to have a clear legislative agenda for what they're pushing. Show me the protest about the lack of accountability of of Wall Street that has brought about any real accountability. Show me the moves by government or by well-funded advocacy groups that it has. Show me. You know, a bunch of Wall Streeters came out with champagne and sat on the balconies, sort of jeering at the protesters. That clip enough. If that's the only thing that comes out of these protests, that's moving the ball forward. The fact that people are just talking about Wall Street, the idea that there is actually anger that is playing itself out by the dedication of a small group of people who are willing to camp out. If that's all that comes out of this, that's as much and as successful as anything else we've seen.
As we gather together in solidarity to express a feeling of mass injustice, we must not lose sight of what brought us together. We write so that all people who feel wronged by the corporate forces of the world can know that we are your allies. As one people, united, we acknowledge the reality that the future of the human race requires the cooperation of its members, that our system must protect our rights, and upon corruption of that system, it is up to the individuals to protect their own rights and those of their neighbors, that a democratic government derives its just power from the people, but corporations do not seek consent to extract wealth from the people and the earth, and that no true democracy is attainable when the process is determined by economic power. We come to you at a time when corporations, which place profit over people, self-interest over justice, and oppression over equality, run our governments. We have peaceably assembled here, as is our right, to let these facts be known. They have taken our houses through an illegal foreclosure process despite not having the original mortgage. They have taken bailouts from taxpayers with impunity and continue to give executives exorbitant bonuses. They have perpetuated inequality and discrimination in workplaces based on age, the color of one's skin, sex, gender identity, and sexual orientation. They have poisoned the food supply through negligence and undermined the farming system through monopolization. They have profited off the torture, confinement, and cruel treatment of countless animals and actively hide these practices. They have continuously sought to strip employees of the right to negotiate for better pay and safer working conditions. They have held students hostage with tens of thousands of dollars of debt on education, which is itself a human right. They have consistently outsourced labor and used that outsourcing as leverage to cut workers' health care and pay. They have influenced the courts to achieve the same rights as people with none of the culpability or responsibility. They have spent millions of dollars on legal teams that look for ways to get them out of contracts in regards to health insurance. They have sold our privacy as a commodity. They have used the military and police force to prevent freedom of the press. They have deliberately declined to recall faulty products, endangering lives in pursuit of profit. They determine economic policy despite the catastrophic failures their policies have produced and continue to produce. They have donated large sums of money to politicians who are responsible for regulating them. They continue to block alternate forms of energy to keep us dependent on oil. They continue to block generic forms of medicine that could save people's lives or provide relief in order to protect investments that have already turned a substantial profit. They have purposely covered up oil spills, accidents, and inactive ingredients in pursuit of profit. They purposefully kept people misinformed and fearful through their control of the media. They have accepted private contracts to murder prisoners, even when presented with serious doubts about their guilt. They have perpetuated colonialism at home and abroad. They have participated in the torture and murder of innocent civilians overseas. They continue to create weapons of mass destruction in order to receive government contracts. To the people of the world, we, the New York City General Assembly, occupying Wall Street and Liberty Square, urge you to assert your power, exercise your right to peaceably assemble, occupy public space, create a process to address the problems we face, and generate solutions accessible to everyone. To all communities that take action and form groups in the spirit of direct democracy, we offer support, documentation, and all of the resources at our disposal. Join us and make your voices heard.
We are the 99%.